So I'm going to call this the question series because I have invited my clients to ask me a question or to offer a topic that they would like me to speak to. And the question for today is, what is the practice of giving ourselves love? And I love the way that sentence is structured because it's not just, how do I love myself? Which is totally valid as well. But I really like the specific wording of what is the practice and giving ourselves love, because that there's a lot in that word alone that sometimes when we just think, okay, I need to love myself, we get stuck in the like, but how? How do I do it, right? So firstly, it's a practice that requires consistency, and it is an act of generosity. So the giving, how do we give ourselves love, is such a beautiful way to word it because it's all in the giving. So we're going to dive into that today. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. So I know that people really like formulas, but maybe it's just the way my brain works, but I don't really do formulas. But I want to take you through the experience. I like experiences. So the experience of how to give yourself love. So I was thinking about this the other day, and what are the things that we want from a partner? We want commitment, we want presence, we want honesty, love, compassion, empathy, understanding, to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. There's, the list could go on and on and on, right? But whatever it is that we're really wanting from a partner, why would we not give that to ourselves? Because the thing is that whatever we're seeking for outside of us is really an indication of what we're needing inside of us. And it's a beautiful thing to receive it from the external. But we have to simultaneously, or even beforehand, give it to ourselves, or we have to understand how to do this within ourselves. Because as I've shared in previous podcasts and videos, probably multiple times, we can't fully receive something until we understand how to embody it within ourselves. Not because we're not worthy of receiving it, but because we won't fully recognize it, or we won't fully allow ourselves to receive it until we understand that we deserve that within ourselves and that we know how to give it to ourselves. We know the feeling. It's kind of like a really silly analogy is someone can explain to you the flavor of chocolate ice cream, and you can get an idea, right? And you can even like have the smell and, see what it looks like. But until you taste it and you go, oh, this is what chocolate ice cream tastes like to me when it's in my mouth. There's more, we're experiential beings. When we're children, we learn through experience. So a lot of the work that I do with clients is to go into the physical embodiment, the feeling of what that person is yearning for or craving from the outside. And we're actually pretty incredible. We're able to tap into something, a feeling of what we want from the outside. We're longing for it. So love is a really big one. And if I guide them through a meditation or a visualization, I should say, they can tap into those feelings. Now, what can kind of get in the way is our limiting beliefs. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. People don't love me. They reject me. They abandon me. I'm not good enough. All of these things, right? That can get in the way. But at the very core, we do know the feeling, right? And I often say to people, I'm going a little bit on a tangent. I will come back, I promise. But what I say to people is, even if you can't connect to the feeling, you have to have an idea of what it is because you know that it's missing. So, I'll just leave that there. If you know that something is missing, you have to have an idea of what it is that you're missing. So, think about, what does a child need? right? Children need love, comfort, presence. They need a focused attention on them. And they need to know that, like, no matter what they do, that we're going to be there for them and that we accept them. And often, when I do the inner child work, especially, most of the time, the one gesture that really encompasses everything that we need, whether it's validation, understanding, to be seen, to be understood, to be accepted, it's a hug. It's the feeling of being embraced, because that says so much. There's so much messaging in that, right? I love you. I see you. You're safe. I accept you. You're not alone. So essentially, everything that a child needs is a kind of loving attention, a loving presence. And again, I'm going to ask the question, if this is what a child needs, why would we as adults be any different? And if this is what we crave from a partner, why would we not give this to ourselves? It seems really kind of silly, but the thing is, most of the time, we are looking for some kind of external person or factor to give us something, to fill the void, to fill the emptiness, to fill the cracks of our wound, really, is what it is. And yet we're not giving those things to ourselves. We're waiting for somebody else to do it for us, because as adults, if we haven't done our inner child work and if we haven't healed our wound, we will continually, that part of us will continue to kind of reenact the wounding. So when we're looking for these things, it's the archetypal child, it's our inner child within us that is still yearning for that embrace, that is yearning for that acceptance, that love, that validation, that approval, that protection, that safety, that attention. So it's the understanding that when we're in a place where we feel like we cannot give ourselves love, it's coming from the child most of the time. And it's coming from the limiting belief that that child within us created, and the narrative that goes along with that, because there was a moment where they felt like, oh, I must not be lovable enough or good enough or worthy enough or wanted, or I don't feel like I belong, or I'm rejected, or I'm abandoned. This is why it's really important to understand, well, what is the belief or the beliefs that go along with the core wound? So as an adult, when we're doing this work, what we need to decipher is, and I talk about this a lot in my work, is the parts of us. And what we often do is, when there's not awareness, we just think, well, I am this. I am my behavior. I am my insecurity. I am my anxiety. I am my fear. I am my jealousy. I am my avoidance, I am whatever it is. We kind of bundle that up all together and we say, I am that. And then that's also quite destabilizing, because it can constantly change according to your mood or according to what you do. And again, I've talked a lot about this before as well. Are you doing something that is deemed successful or a failure? Are you good or are you bad? Are you right or you're wrong? That again is, it's kind of very volatile, because your self-worth is constantly dependent on something else, right? It's not just who you are, it's dependent on what you do, and more what people think of you or what you believe people think of you. So we have to make this discernment to differentiate, oh, this part of me feels like that. That part of me feels like this. And you start to understand that they're just different parts of us that have had different experiences and have been hurt in different ways, that they act out. But who we are, the essence of who we are, the analogy that I use is, imagine a canvas. The essence of who you are is the blank canvas. And what you paint on that canvas are the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings, the experiences of your life. But the canvas is always there behind it. Like that doesn't change, right? You can even like color over paint and you can transform it into an entirely different painting if you want to, but the canvas remains the same. We are no different. The essence of who we are, which includes our innate worth, our lovability, our significance, the fact that we belong here because we're here, that is, you cannot change that. You cannot get rid of that. That is always there. That is the white blank canvas that will forever be behind all the splotches and splashes of paint, whether they're beautiful or ugly, brutal, joyful. You know what I'm saying? The canvas is always there. And so when we're doing this work, the awareness is to be aware of the canvas. Be aware of the essence of who you are that can hold all of these various parts of you. And so when we recognize that this part of us, I'm going to call it the inner child for right now, that part of us, the inner child, doesn't feel loved, doesn't feel worthy, doesn't feel wholly accepted, or feels alone. The practice of giving ourselves love is being present and showing up for this part of ourselves again and again and again. Because again, think about what is comforting? What is it that we want, that we feel comforted by in a partner and in a parent? It's consistency. It's commitment. It's, they continue to show up for me and they're present, they're loving, they're compassionate, they're understanding, they don't judge me, they don't pick an argument with me, they don't ignore me. The inconsistency, sometimes they're here, sometimes they're not, sometimes they tell me the truth, sometimes they lie. That doesn't work, right? That doesn't create connection or a bond or any kind of trust whatsoever. And so then the bridge to love is it's broken. You can't really have a healthy relationship in that way. So again, why would it be any different for us? If we are ignoring our deeper feelings, if we're distracting ourselves, numbing ourselves, going to something else to, make us feel better, what we're essentially doing in those moments is we're neglecting ourselves, we're abandoning, we're rejecting, right? Or I'm actually not even going to say it's worse, because sometimes ignoring ourselves is worse than judging ourselves. But that's another option, right? Is we might judge, critique. Why are you doing this? God, what's wrong with you? Jesus, you're an adult. Why don't you know better by now? God, this is taking so long. Whatever the narrative is, whatever the script is, and you'll know this if you start to bring awareness. What are the things that you tell yourself pretty much every single day that are putting you down, that are not supportive? We have to work, our judgment and our self-criticism are probably the biggest things that we need to work with every single day. Because for most humans, until you've really done this work and for a lot of time, because here's the consistency, that is going to be probably the biggest obstacle. But remember, the obstacle is the way. It isn't like, oh God, I can't do this. The obstacle is the way. If you can learn to listen, hold, love, accept your judgment, to alchemize judgment, to understand that judgment is just coming from a fear, and fear is coming from a place of hurt, and hurt stems from our wound. So if you can understand that your self-criticism is because deep down you're hurting, and what that hurting part of you needs is your loving presence, your attention. Like the parent, it's the child that needs the parent to say, oh, I'm here for you. That they hold you and bring you into their lap, and they just give you love. And through that love, you feel accepted and seen and heard and understood and safe and not alone, right? All of these things, you feel connected. So the practice of giving ourselves love is every single day noticing the moment that you put yourself down, the moments you say, oh, that's wrong, I shouldn't. I'm going to bring this to your attention once again. Whenever you use the word should, you are outside of yourself. You are measuring yourself by an external opinion, and it's assuming that who you are right now isn't good enough and you should be someone better. So whenever you notice the script, the record that keeps going round and round and round and round, that is the portal. That is your invitation to look at that and begin to be curious. Wow, okay, why am I judging myself like this? What's going on beneath the judgment? And that might be fear, it might be sadness, it might be anger. You might go directly to pain. You just have to go into the process of inquiry with curiosity to understand, why am I feeling like this? There's always a reason. There's always a reason. Remember in previous episodes, I said a baby isn't born and you go, oh, yep, that one's an asshole. Like, we're all born with that canvas, that essence, that is just sheer pure love. It's just pure love. You look at a baby, and no wonder, people love babies because they're just beautiful. The essence of who they are is so beautiful. A baby doesn't come out looking like an asshole. They just don't, What happens is our behavior stems from pain and a lack of awareness of that pain. When we go into unconscious aspects of ourselves is when we tend to act out in perhaps even more vicious ways or more irritable ways or more abusive ways, or, it really depends, right? It depends on the amount of pain. It depends on the environment that we grew up in, and ultimately depends on our conscious awareness of it. So there's always a reason, and whatever the reason is, it deserves love and compassion. It deserves your loving attention. So I wish I could give you a kind of just a basic formula, but really it's an experience of just every single day. And I really truly mean every single day. This is a journey that you will take with. You will be on this journey for the rest of your life. Now, one thing I will point out is where you are now is not where you'll forever be. I've been doing this work on myself for more than 2 decades. And that doesn't mean that, I'm a perfect person and, I'm always positive and happy and I always know the right thing to say, and doesn't mean I don't piss people off or, I'm the best partner in relationship, or I'm still human. I still have my down days. I still have my, get angry when I'm in the car and there's a stupid driver. Even saying that's judgmental, right? I am so aware of these things, but the biggest difference for me, having done this work for, more than 2 decades, is the 2 things. One is the tail isn't wagging the dog anymore. I'm not run by my emotions. I'm not run by that narrative. I don't feel the sting of judgment anymore. I really don't. And I'd say that's been in the last 5 years where I've really, really felt that I just allow whatever the experience is that I'm having, I just allow it. Because I've stopped saying, oh, well, that's good and that's bad. That's right and that's wrong. I should be more like that. I should be less than that. I just don't do that anymore. But the thing is if you think that however old you are, that most of your life you are running this program, that narrative, that script, I should say, every single day of how you relate to yourself, how you judge and criticize yourself, how you put yourself down, how you validate the limiting belief of, see, you're not good enough, you're not lovable, you're abandoned, you're rejected, you're stupid, you're never going to make it. Whatever it is, we tend to tell ourselves those stories virtually every single day. And so however old you are, if you've just begun the practice now, that's probably many, 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 many years, decades even, of a program and a habit of repeating that program. So we're having to undo the habit, unlearn basically, and relearn a different way of showing up. Again, I find it's really easy. It's easier sometimes to see it outside of us. Think about how you'd want a partner to treat you. Think about how you wanted your parent to treat you. whatever those qualities are that you want from them, start giving them to yourself. I think this is really the simplest way in nearly 20 minutes to explain this. And there's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's just simply, how do you give yourself loving presence, loving attention? A basic question, and I know I've said this before, but a basic question you can ask yourself is, can what I'm feeling, thinking, experiencing, can it be okay? And even if the answer is no, it can't be okay. I don't like this. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. It scares me. Can that be okay? And the second thing I would say is be really honest with yourself. I spoke about this in the last episode on the shadow. It's very useful to name what your fears are. That's very, very useful. It's so powerful in the moment when you are judging yourself, when you are criticizing yourself, when you're putting yourself down, when you're going into that script. If there's fear, it is so powerful to say, I'm scared. I'm scared right now. The more you can be honest with yourself, which really essentially just means the more vulnerable you can be with yourself, the quicker you're going to get to a place of love. And think of it less of like, oh, I need to love myself. Go back to the question, the practice of giving yourself love is really an act of accepting that all of who you are is okay. All of it. Like every single inch of who you are is okay. It really, really is. It's just that you judge certain parts of yourself as being better or worse, or more comfortable and more uncomfortable, right? But it's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It just is. So if you can just come to this place of, I accept every inch of who I am. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to deem it as good or bad. Then you can just allow your experience to be your experience. And it's through that acceptance, it's through that non-judgment, it's through showing up again and again and again that you begin to love yourself. Love is it's the, I don't want to say it's the after effect, but like it's the product of that, right? It's the product of just simply accepting who you are. And if you can do this every single day, you will just get in the habit, in a really positive habit of continually showing up for yourself. And remember that one of the really important things that we need in relationship is trust. And how do we gain trust? Consistency. So be consistent with it. Be curious with yourself. If judgment arises, ask yourself, why am I judging myself? Where is the judgment coming from? Am I scared? Am I angry? Am I sad? Am I hurting? This is an inward journey. You're going through, you're peeling the layers back and you're going to the core, and you're going to give yourself what you really need, which is just your loving attention. You want to learn to embrace yourself. And if you physically need to do that sometimes, like physically give yourself a hug. I catch myself doing that sometimes. I'll wrap my arms around me. I might even kiss my own shoulder. You might think that's bloody weird, but it's not. It's an act of like, yeah, this body is housing us. We're in this journey till death do us part, quite literally. Why wouldn't we want to love ourselves? Why wouldn't we want to treat ourselves the way that we want to be treated by the people that we love and that we hope love us, right? So whatever you're seeking for on the outside, can you give yourself that on the inside? And consistency is the key. Keep on showing up. Even if you're like, you know what, this fucking sucks. This is hard. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. Then remember that's probably a smaller part of you. That's like, this is too hard. Like, mommy, daddy, just come and hold me and fix it, make it better. But the adult in you needs to show up and go, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to make this choice to take care of myself. I'm going to make this choice to love myself. And it is a choice. You don't have to. You don't have to do any of this. But your life will be more pleasant if you do. Because then no matter what arises, no matter what the weather of your internal weather of that day is, no matter what the experience in your life, whether you're in an amazing, happy relationship and job, or in a miserable relationship and job, and you need to get yourself out, or you need to change something in your life, you need to move somewhere, whatever it is, the challenge, you fall sick, a family member falls sick, whatever the challenge is or the obstacle, you know you have your back. You are there with yourself day in and day out. And that is the most comforting thing that you can ever feel and have in your life. I guarantee it. So practice is in the consistency. And remember, loving ourselves is an act of generosity. It's giving to ourselves, caring about ourselves, giving ourselves the loving attention that we have always wanted from the outside. And we're going to give that to ourselves and embody it. As always, take it or leave it. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. And I'm loving you all from afar. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.